Your savings account is lying to you, and it's doing it with a smile and a 4.5% APY sticker slapped on the front. We need to talk about what's actually happening to your money while it sits there, feeling safe, feeling cozy, slowly getting eaten alive. Let's set the scene. Inflation is running hot. The Federal Reserve is playing chess with interest rates, and your high-yield savings account is handing you a trophy that says participation on it. After taxes and real inflation, that shiny yield might actually be zero or worse, negative, and your bank is absolutely not going to call you to mention that. Here's the core problem, and stay with me because this is where it gets interesting. The yield you see advertised is nominal, meaning it doesn't account for the silent tax called inflation that quietly shrinks what your dollars can actually buy. Think of it like a treadmill you're running. You're sweating, you feel productive, but the scenery outside the window hasn't moved an inch. And speaking of things moving, let's talk about oil. Because nothing accelerates inflation quite like a disruption in the Strait of Hormuz or a geopolitical flashpoint that spooks energy markets. When oil prices spike, everything from groceries to shipping costs follows. And suddenly your 4.5% looks like it's trying to outrun a wildfire with a garden hose. Now here's where the optimism used to live. Back when rates first started climbing, everyone was celebrating high-yield savings like they discovered a cheat code. Financial Twitter was euphoric. Your uncle was bragging at Thanksgiving. And for a minute, it really did feel like you could just park cash and win. But that window, like most windows in finance, has a way of closing when you're not looking. The irony is almost poetic. The same Federal Reserve that gifted us these elevated rates is the one that will eventually cut them. And when that happens, your bank will quietly lower your yield before you've even finished your morning coffee. This is called reinvestment risk. And it's the reason locking in a rate now through a CD, a treasury bill, or a bond ETF is actually the smarter defensive play while the getting is still good. History is pretty clear on this. Even when we pretend each cycle is somehow different, the 1980s had sky-high rates that eventually collapsed. The 2000s had a savings renaissance that faded. And every time, the people who locked in predictable fixed income yields came out ahead of those who assumed the party would last forever. A treasury bill isn't glamorous, but neither is watching your yield drop 2% while you were busy debating whether to switch banks. Now let's address the elephant, the mammoth, and honestly the whole prehistoric zoo in the room, equities. The S&P 500 has returned roughly 70% over the last 5 years, and your savings account, even at its peak, has not come close to that conversation. If your money doesn't need to be liquid for at least 3 years, keeping it in cash isn't conservative, it's expensive. A common misconception we need to dismantle right now is that investing in stocks is gambling, while keeping money in savings is responsible. But the real risk is the one you don't see, which is the purchasing power erosion happening in slow motion every single quarter. Rational preparation means matching your money to its actual time horizon, not just defaulting to the option that feels the safest at a dinner party. For the inflation hedge piece, commodities and oil-related assets have historically done what savings accounts cannot. They move with inflation rather than against it, which is exactly what you need when the macro environment is producing price pressure from every direction. You don't have to go all in, but ignoring that asset class entirely while inflation runs hot is the financial equivalent of bringing an umbrella and then leaving it in the car. The practical playbook here isn't complicated, even if the macro backdrop makes it feel that way. Short-term fixed income for your defensive cash, equities for your long horizon money, and real assets or commodities as a thoughtful hedge against the inflationary scenarios that keep central bankers up at night. Process beats prediction every single time. And discipline beats conviction when the environment shifts beneath your feet. Position size matters more than being right. And that's a truth that survivors of every market cycle will tell you if you ask them the right question at the right moment. You don't need a perfect forecast. You need a rational structure that doesn't require you to be a genius to survive a wrong guess. At the end of the day, the goal isn't to find the one perfect asset and ride it into the sunset. It's to build a framework that works across multiple outcomes, keeps your purchasing power intact, and doesn't require you to panic every time a headline changes. Discipline, sizing, and consistency are the boring superheroes of personal finance. They don't get the movie deal, but they do get the retirement. Whether rates fall, inflation spikes, or the geopolitical map reshapes itself overnight, the investor with a rational, diversified, time horizon aware structure sleeps better than the one chasing the hottest yield on a comparison website. We're comfortable with uncertainty here. What we're not comfortable with is being unprepared for it. And if you're ready to stop letting your savings account pretend to work for you and start actually building wealth, whether through real estate investing, connecting with the right contractors, or finding lenders who understand your goals, check out our links in the description below.